Now give the floor to the distinguished representative of Russian Federation.
President, colleagues, I'm looking for the English channel. The Russian Federation considers that international cooperation on emergency humanitarian assistance to be one of the most important areas of work of the UN. Against a backdrop of growing humanitarian needs because of natural disasters, conflicts, technogenic catastrophes, effective, harmonious and effective work in the humanitarian pillar of our organisation is eminently necessary. We are convinced that only through unwavering compliance by all those working in humanitarian activities of the guiding principles for emergency humanitarian assistance, as agreed in General Assembly Resolution 46182, only this will guarantee a good outcome when providing humanitarian assistance. Such compliance allows for building of trust, broaden humanitarian access, and ensures the safety of humanitarian workers. We will call on all partners to international humanitarian assistance to maintain a political neutrality and impartiality, and to not politicise humanitarian assistance, and to always respect the sovereignty and leading role of states in initiation, coordination, and implementation of humanitarian assistance within their territories, as stipulated in this resolution. Now, speaking about humanitarian principles, we cannot disregard the fact that recent years have seen a turbulence in multilateral diplomacy, and this has had a negative impact on negotiations on humanitarian resolutions. I would like to note that for decades, this area was less subject to politicization, inasmuch as it was simply about saving human lives. We used to be capable of moving beyond political disagreements and engaging in constructive dialogue. Reality is such that on the humanitarian battlefield, as a rule, there are no victors, but the victims can run into the millions. In this connection, we'd call on all delegations to undertake efforts to return to a situation where humanitarian resolutions are adopted unanimously. Now, speaking about politicization now, unfortunately, we've noted the comments of our colleagues from Ukraine. As regards the accusations, we must state that these statements do not change from one year to the next. We often hear politicized theories and nothing about the guilt of Ukraine. At the same time, it is clear that the responsible for the serious humanitarian situation in the southeast of Ukraine lies on the shoulders exclusively of the Kiev authorities, and who do not wish to fulfill the obligations that they have taken on as part of the Minsk agreements, the inviolability of which was reaffirmed by the recent Normandy format meeting. Now, as regards Crimea, then the discussion around its reunification with Russia is senseless. The people of Crimea enjoy the right of self-determination as enshrined in the UN Charter. As regards the accusations, perhaps we could go on talk about this for a long time because they're not actually linked, they have no bearing on reality, but I won't go into detail. I'd rather simply like to repeat that we are ready to consider the request of the visit of our country to see the reality for yourselves. We would like to call on our colleagues, all colleagues, including from Ukraine, to respect the neutral nature of humanitarian debates and not allow it to slip into politics. This undermines the constructive nature of our discussions, and we must be focused particularly on caring for people. The Russian Federation regularly provides support to UN humanitarian agencies and also sends rescuers, qualified experts and humanitarian assistance to regions that have suffered from natural disasters and armed conflict. We consistently participate in projects, including alongside our Belarusian colleagues, on the recovery and development of the territory that suffered in the wake of the Chernobyl disaster. We would like to thank the delegation of Belarus for coordinating the negotiation process on this draft resolution. In 2019, the overall contribution of Russia to international humanitarian assistance through the UN was almost $50 million. We attach particular importance to cooperation with OCHA, UNICEF, the WHO, UNFPA and UNHCR, and the Rome-based agencies, the WFP and the FAO. We regularly contribute to the Central Emergency Response Fund of the UN, which we deem to be an innovative and effective tool for funding humanitarian efforts, particularly in the early stages of response. In the near future, we're also planning on building on Russia's contribution to assistance to countries in Africa, including through the UNWFP. This understanding was achieved following the Russia-Africa Summit held in October in Sochi. Alongside other humanitarian agencies, we're also working on options for innovative decisions to increase the effectiveness of earmarked contributions. We support the work of the UN system to ensure funding for humanitarian appeals through anticipatory approaches in financing. Thank you very much for your attention, and thank you for the good translation.
I thank the distinguished representative of Russian Federation. I now